Number 10. In 2004, New York firefighters Mike Malone and Nicholas DeMasi went public to say they had found the black boxes at the World Trade Center and were told to keep their mouths shut by FBI agents. Nicholas DeMasi said that he escorted federal agents on an all-terrain vehicle in October 2001 and helped them locate the devices. A story backed by rescue volunteer Mike Malone. As the Philadelphia Daily News reported at the time, their story raises questions to whether there was some type of cover-up at Ground Zero. Number 11. Hundreds of eyewitnesses, including first responders, fire captains, news reporters, and police, all described multiple explosions.
Now, Barry Jennings, you were on the 8th floor, you work for the City Housing Department. Explain to me the moment of impact.
Well, me and Mr. Hesh, the Corporation Counsel, were on the 23rd floor. I told him we got to get out of here. We started walking down the stairs. We made it to the 8th floor. Big explosion. Blew us back into the 8th floor.
In both towers before and during the collapse. Number 12. An astounding video uncovered from the archives shows BBC News correspondent Jane Stanley reporting on the collapse of World Trade Center building number 7 over 20 minutes before it fell at 5:20 p.m.
Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Tapes from earlier BBC broadcasts show news anchors discussing the collapse of World Trade Center building number 7 a full 26 minutes in advance. The BBC at first claimed that their first tapes from 9/11 had been lost, before admitting that they had made an error of reporting the collapse of World Trade Center building number 7 before it happened without adequately explaining how they could have obtained advanced knowledge of the event.
Charlie, yeah, the BBC reporting it early didn't help out.
In addition, over an hour before the collapse of World Trade Center building number 7 at 4:10 p.m., CNN's Aaron Brown reported that the building has either collapsed or is collapsing.
You're aware of time zones, right?
You know the Earth has 24 different time zones?
Another Earth's day is 24 hours long. Is that why we have 24 zones of time?
Yes, the Earth is a sphere. It is.
England's way ahead of us.
Number 13. Solicitor General Ten Olson's claim that his wife Barbara Olson called him twice from Flight 77, describing hijackers with box cutters, was a central plank of the official 9/11 story. However, the credibility of the story was completely undermined after Olson kept changing his story about whether his wife used the cell phone or the airplane phone. The technology to enable cell phone calls from high-altitude planes was not created until 2004. American Airlines confirmed that Flight 77 was a Boeing 757, and that this plane did not have airplane phones on board. According to the FBI, Barbara Olson attempted to call her husband only once after the call failed to connect. Therefore, Olson must have been lying when he claimed he had spoken to his wife from Flight 77. According to the FBI, Barbara Olson attempted to call her husband only once and called. According to the FBI, Barbara Olson attempted to call her husband only once and the call failed to connect. Therefore, Olson must have been lying when he claimed he had spoken to his wife from Flight 77.
This Olsen guy sounds like a liar. His wife, I don't know him. I don't know her.
Number 14. The size of a Boeing 757 is approximately 125 feet in width, and yet images of the impact zone at the Pentagon supposedly caused by the crash merely show a hole no more than 16 feet in diameter. The engines of the 757 would have punctured a hole bigger than this, never mind the whole plane. Images before the partial collapse of the impact zone show little real impact damage and a sparse debris field completely inconsistent with the crash of a large jetliner, especially when contrasted with other images showing airplane crashes into buildings.
That hole, it's not big enough for a plane. Maybe a missile or something. God, I hate telling the truth.
Number 15. What is the meaning behind the following quote attributed to Dick Cheney, which came to light during the 9/11 Commission hearings? The passage is taken from testimony given by the Secretary of Transportation, Norman Mineta.
There was a young man who would come in and say to the vice president, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, do the orders still stand?
And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said,
of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
As the plane was not shot down, in addition to the fact that armed fighter jets were nowhere near the plane and the Pentagon defensive system was not activated, are we to take it that the orders were to let the plane find its target?
Charlie, there's a lot of different reasonable explanations for this. None of which I have right now at this point.
Number 16. In May 2003, the Miami Herald reported how the Bush administration was refusing to release a 900-page congressional report on 9/11 because it wanted to avoid enshrining embarrassing details in the report, particularly regarding pre-9/11 warnings, as well as the fact that the hijackers were trained at U.S. flight schools.
One time, can't they pick somebody non-military?
Number 17. Top Pentagon officials canceled their scheduled flights for September 11th on September 10th. San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, following a security warning, canceled a flight into New York that was scheduled for the morning of 9/11.
Fortune cookies, palm readings, premonitions, I don't know. You pick one. I know I was selling short.
Number 18. The technology to enable cell phone calls from high-altitude airline flights was not created until 2004, and even by that point, it was only in the trial phase.
This phone is the little charmer, no?
Calls from cell phones, which formed an integral part of the official government version of events, were technologically impossible at the time.
I'm not a computer nerd. Do I look like a cell phone geek to you?
Number 19. On April 29, 2004, President Bush and Vice President Dick Cheney would only meet with the commission under specific clandestine conditions. They insisted on testifying together and not under oath. They also demanded that their testimony be treated as a matter of state secret. To date, nothing they spoke of exists in the public domain.
Charlie, what's going on here? What is going on here?
And finally, Mr. President, number 20. A few days after the attack, several newspapers, including the FBI, reported that a paper passport had been found in the ruins of the World Trade Center. In August 2004, CNN reported that 9/11 hijacker Ziad Jarrah's visa was found in the remains of Flight 93, which went down in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Sorry, Mr. President, that's Shanksville, Pennsylvania. At least a third of the WTC victims' bodies were vaporized, and many of the victims of the Pentagon incident were burned beyond recognition. And yet visas and paper passports which identify the perpetrators and back up the official version of events miraculously survive explosions and fires that were told melted steel buildings.
Charlie, your 20 minutes is up.